The Companies Act 1956. Now our attention is on understanding holding company and subsidiary company. A private company may be a subsidiary company or holding company. Similarly, a public company also may be a subsidiary company or a holding company. Section 4 enables us to understand what is holding company and what is subsidiary company. When a company becomes holding company, we are going to understand, and which company becomes a subsidiary company and why, we are going to understand. Subsection 1 of section 4 of the Companies Act 1956 says, for the purposes of this act, always remember the expression for the purposes of this act. This expression is very important as long as we are going to understand the expression holding company and subsidiary company. For the purposes of this act, a company shall be deemed to be a subsidiary of another. A company shall be deemed to be a subsidiary of another if there are three conditions, specific conditions. So if any one of the specific condition is met, that company is deemed as a subsidiary company. So what are these three specific conditions? So even if one condition meets a company, it is deemed a subsidiary company. So subsection 1 of section 4 says, a company shall be deemed a subsidiary company if that other controls the composition of its board of directors. So a company shall be deemed to be a subsidiary company when that other controls the composition of its board of directors. Assume that there are two companies. One is X company, another is Y company. So if Y company controls the composition of board of directors of X company, in such a case, X company is deemed to be a subsidiary company. Let us repeat again. There are two companies. So as long as we stay at section 4 of this Companies Act, let's assume that there are two companies, one X company and another Y company. To understand it first, what is subsidiary and what is holding company. So assume that X company is there. It shall be deemed a subsidiary when Y company controls the composition of the board of directors of X company. So if Y company controls the composition of board of directors of X company is deemed to be a subsidiary company and Y company is deemed to be holding company. First condition we met. There is another condition. If it meets, here also it is well and good. So if that other company means Y company holds preference share capital of X company, which used to have otherwise, which is carrying on the voting rights similar to equity rights. Till recent past, preference shares were having voting rights similar to equity shares. At present, preference shares are not issued carrying voting rights similar to equity shares. So let us understand, if Y company is holding preference shares issued by X company and that preference shares are carrying on voting rights similar to equity shares, and Y company is holding more than 50 more than half of the total voting power of such company. Such company means X company. Once again, let us repeat it. If Y company is holding more than half of the total voting power of X company, No, which share it is? It is preference share capital. So at present, preference share capitals do not carry voting rights similar to equity shares. If at all such shares were issued, such preference shares were issued, carrying voting rights similar to equity shares. Now let us go to third point. In third point, it is similar to second point. Like if Y company is holding more than half in nominal value of equity share capital of X. In such a case, Y company is deemed holding company and X company is deemed subsidiary company. So till now, there are three instances where a company is deemed to be a subsidiary and Y company is deemed to be holding company. What is first instance? Again, let us repeat it. If for easy understanding purpose, we are assuming that there are two companies, one X company, another Y company. To understand what is subsidiary and what is holding company, assume that if Y company controls the composition of board of directors of X company, X company is called subsidiary and Y company is called holding company. Second instance, if Y company is holding more than half of the total voting power of X company through preference shares. Again, let us remind ourselves, preference shares till recent past were carrying on voting rights similar to equity shares. Now, it is not taking place. There is third instance. If Y company is holding more than half in nominal value of equity share capital of X, Y company is called holding company, X company is called subsidiary company, provided that this section is subject to the provisions of subsection 3 of section 4. What is it telling? Provided that this section means here section 4, is subject to the provisions of subsection 3 of section 4, which say that the above said conditions would not be effective if they are in a fiduciary capacity. Very important expression. See, we were referring three instances where so and so company may be deemed subsidiary company and another company is deemed holding company. Three instances were referred. In three instances, if the composition of board of directors is fiduciary, it is not treated as holding company. The other side, it was not subsidiary company. Similarly, holding preference shares more than half of the total voting power of such company means X company, in fiduciary capacity, it is not treated as holding company or subsidiary company. So let us ignore the expression for the purpose of this act in this section. Let us not ignore it. So subsidiary company, how do we identify? What is the base? Subsection 1 of section 4 says, the act says that a company may be deemed to be a subsidiary of another if it meets any one of the following two conditions. That conditions we already came through. One is controlling the composition of board of directors of subsidiary company. Another is holding more than half of its paid up share capital, that we were referring equity share capital. Till recent past, preference shares were also carrying voting rights similar to equity shares. In such situation also, a company was having voting powers. Here, there may be an instance like company B is a subsidiary company of A and company C is a subsidiary company of B. Company C is a subsidiary of company A by virtue of clause C above. If company D is subsidiary company of C, company D will be a subsidiary company of B and consequently also of the company A by virtue of clause C of above. Here note a point about holding more than half of its paid up share capital. Again, underline, holding more than half of its paid up share capital. It should not be in fiduciary capacity. Always you remember, it should not be in fiduciary capacity.